Nothing. Thank you, Michelle. So once again, welcome to the closing keynote speaker. Dr. Solange Aranha is a professor in English language at UNESP. She has a PhD in linguistics and in Portuguese language from UNESP Araraquara, a master's in applied linguistics and language studies from PUC São Paulo. She graduated in literature from UNESP Araraquara originally before she started this long journey down the linguistics path. She is currently a professor.
Portuguese and linguistics.
Portuguese and linguistics?
Yeah, that's why literature, I mean, it's just there.
Yeah, that was on the copy.
Yeah, I know. I know. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. She's currently a professor of modern languages at the Modern Languages Department at UNESP, São José do Rio Preto, where she works at the undergraduate level, bachelor's degree in languages and bachelor's degree in translation, and the postgraduate level, the program in linguistic studies. She has experience in the area of applied linguistics with an emphasis on teaching and learning languages, acting mainly on the following topics: applied linguistics, textual discursive genres, telecollaboration, teaching and learning. She also has 2 postdoctorates funded by Proficient, UNESP, and FAPESP. Dr. Aranha.
Thank you very much. I'd like to start by thanking for the invitation, and it's a pleasure for me to be here, especially because it's an honor to be the guest speaker of this conference. And I'd like to compliment everybody in the organization committee. It's a very well organized conference. It's been a great pleasure to be with you these 2 days and to see people participating from different places and different levels. At the university, we have scholars and we have undergrads all participating together. It's been really, really nice and democratic, as we are now. I would like to start. I'll share the screen. And before I start, I would also like to, actually this I took from Paulo this morning, but I would like to thank João Teles too for having me in 2009 in the Teletandem project. He opened his arms for me and I started studying telecollaboration, and because of him, because he said, yes, you can come, because I was from a different area. So João, thank you very much. It has changed my life. And the topic of, or the theme, the title, if you check the procedures, it's MulTeC, Multimodal Teletandem Corpus, possibilities of longitudinal research in teletandem. And I just changed. While I started, when I started preparing and while I was preparing, I said that longitudinal was too restrictive, and I found many other interesting things I would like to share. And so I excluded longitudinal, and I'm talking about the possibilities of research, not only longitudinal, but other possibilities as well. Right? That's why I excluded longitudinal, and because it has to do with the arguments I'm going to present today. Well, basically this presentation will, just let me see if I can hide it. Yes, otherwise, okay. This presentation will talk a little bit about telecollaboration and teletandem, because this discussion is a never-ending discussion, and Also, it has appeared in some of the discussions during these 2 days. So I would like to tackle that. I will present the challenges of the context. Many words or many examples on MulTeC, which is the Multimodal Teletandem Corpus, and some further remarks and some call for actions from all of you. The first thing I would like to establish is teletandem as a telecollaboration project, and I'll show you some evidence that we have been calling it telecollaboration for years, and or virtual exchange. This is the definition of telecollaboration or virtual exchange. That is engagement of groups of learners in online intercultural interactions and collaboration projects with partners from other cultural contexts or geographical locations. Although we focus on language, right, we also focus on intercultural issues, and we also focus on collaboration and telecollaboration, right? So we are here. As an integrated part of their educational programs, either if it's integrated or not, our students, all of our students benefit from this, the Teletandem project. Also, approaches to virtual exchange have evolved in different contexts and different areas of education. This has been pointed out in many of the presentations during these 2 days, the different contexts and the different people involved. And also these approaches have had at times very diverse organizational structures and pedagogical objectives. Although our objective at the beginning was language learning and language exchange, we realized that we have been learning many more things than language itself, because language is just part of it. So in this sense, in sense of telecollaboration and virtual exchange, we have many different initiatives, as the COIL, that you were probably acquainted with, the Global Learning Experience from the Paulo University. We have the UNICollaboration in Europe, which is an organization for virtual exchange in higher education. We have the BRAVE at UNESP, the Brazilian Virtual Exchange. So we have many initiatives in telecollaboration, right? And Teletandem is telecollaboration and virtual exchange. And these are some quotes from our own works, people who work in our group, right? So Teletandem is a model of online intercultural exchange that uses, so we are always trying to define Teletandem, right, based on Teles 2006, but we are always trying to include this this activity into telecollaboration, that it is a telecollaborative activity. Teles 2015 says Teletandem is a mode of telecollaboration, a virtual, collaborative, and autonomous context for learning foreign languages. Cavallari and Aranha in 2019, Teletandem is a model of telecollaboration. So we have used telecollaboration in our own definitions of Teletandem. The virtual exchange detailed in this practice report is part of the Teletandem Brazil project. So Salomon and Silva, 2020. And of course, I haven't carried out an extensive research just to say that we consider Teletandem telecollaboration, or an aspect of telecollaboration once our main focus is language exchange. And in our own research group name, we have Intercâmbio Virtual e Teletandem, so virtual exchange and teletandem, and we discussed this a lot. So that's where we are. So as any virtual exchange project or program, it has at times very diverse organizational structures and pedagogical objectives. And the basic methodology has been applied in a myriad of ways and has been shown to be adaptable to different pedagogical objectives and learning contexts. And we can say that we have different teletandem contexts and consequently different teletandem approaches and organizations and objectives, right? At UNESP Araraquara, UNESP Assis, UNESP São José do Rio Preto, as it was in the beginning, and now we have at Universidade Estadual do Norte do Paraná, as already reported by Souza 2020. We have teletandem projects starting in Instituto Federal de São Paulo. We have it at WELL, as Gabriela presented today, and maybe some others that I haven't attended the presentation. We have it in Goiânia for a long time. They have been in the inflits, the past inflits. We have it at URCA, Ceará, and there are some people presenting already with those wonderful accents. And we have at Federal de Ouro Preto, and we are starting with USP now. I don't know if I forgot anything, probably not. But just to show that the different modes as proposed for virtual exchange programs is part of teletandem nowadays. Teletandem has just broadened the activity and extended the contexts in which, of course, it's different. It's happening differently in these places, as it should be. We have, for international parties, we have 14 parties in the United States, 2 in Mexico, 2 in Colombia, 2 in Italy, and 3 in Germany, according to our website. And we can say then that that teletandem described by Teles 2006 is telecollaboration and virtual exchange. It is democratic, very democratic, because the more the merrier. It's cross-cultural. It's emancipating, it's autonomous, as many of the presenters showed today. It's challenging because we are always being challenged by the new context and the new challenges that the activity poses to us. It's pedagogically structured. It's different in the different places, but every group tries to give it a structure somehow. It's multilingual, as Paula mentioned this morning. It's multimodal because you interact by video and you have these gestures and and it's Brazilian because it was born in Brazil and it has spread all over the world. And we can also say that teletandem from Teles 2006 develops competences, as many of the works will show. It uses technologies. It follows teletandem principles, although some of them are at stake right now. We have been discussing this. as Anna showed in one of the discussions. It helps future teachers, as mentioned in the opening session of this conference. It widens teaching perspectives for people who are taking part, for teachers to be who are taking part in the program, and for us who are implementing it in different contexts. It incorporates different contexts, and you name it, right? So in terms of practice, as you can see, Teletandem has been giving fruitful results, right? The number of students who benefit from the practice, right? We have maybe 200 a year at UNESP. Nowadays, we don't count because there are many people in other, we used to count at UNESP. Nowadays, many other people are implementing the project, and we don't know how many students are benefited from the practice. And it offers opportunities for all, as it was in the title in the beginning, foreign languages for all. It fosters internationalization of universities because we have access to other universities and contacts with other universities. It's updated, although it's a little bit old. It's from 2006. It's really updated. I mean, it really follows the trends of what is going on now in the world. As Dr. Cunningham said, the experience is excellent for future teachers, right? Not only during these horrible times, but also during these horrible times. It incorporates tasks. It has been incorporating tasks, as research has shown that autonomy should be hindered in some situations, and which emphasizes its pedagogical relevance. So, in terms of research, so far from the website, we have research on language learning, many different researches on language learning. In modes of implementation, these are some mentioned in the website, but I'm pretty sure there are others. Cultural issues. Culture is a very important issue being studied within Teletandem context. Language development and comparison between languages. Learning scenarios, different learning scenarios. What do you have? What changes depending on the learning scenario? We have peer feedback. We have mediation. Just to name a few, just to refer to our website. There are many more, right? Investigations and many more works on these things. Well, so far so good, but in terms of research, we still have some challenges because practice goes very fast. We implement different modes of Teletandem, different contexts of Teletandem, different arrangements of Teletandem practice, but still in terms of research, we have some challenges. The first challenge is not a challenge, actually, because I think that we do what we say. When we implement the project in any of the context it's being implemented, we are doing what we are saying, right? But we are not saying, or we are not telling the others what we are doing, right? So this distance is not between what we say and what we do, but what we do and what we tell, right? I think this is the first challenge, the theory versus the practice. How can we approximate both, right? And it has a bit to do with the complexity of the research environment. And these aspects, Kyra, who's here, and we wrote about these aspects in a paper published this year. One of the difficulties for research is that the participants' exchange occur in online as well as face-to-face spaces. We have mediation sessions. We have the oral session, the teletandem oral session between the partners. So it's a vast, right, context to it's a vast environment. What are we going to research? The mediation session, the oral session, what they write in the diaries. So this is the first thing. The second thing is that researchers involved are frequently from different institutions. So we have lots of works on what happens in the Brazilian side, but much less, we know much less of what happens in the other side, or in the other sides, because we talk to many different countries. Colleagues conduct research from distant locations and may have different research cultures. We know that it's difficult to develop research together with the partners we have. Practice is okay, but research is not that easy, right? Because sometimes we have different research cultures. Most telecollaborative exchange research is conducted by researchers on exchanges for which they themselves were one of the pedagogical coordinators. So we who implement teletandem, we make we are multitask, right? We talk to the professor at the other side, we make the partnerships, we follow their reflexive diaries, we work with mediation, or we form mediators to work. So we are multitask, right? So we are the teacher and the one who implement. Telecollaborative exchanges often generate a wealth of data, meaning that some data may not be analyzed to the time-consuming task of a transcription or the sheer volume of data collected, right? I'm pretty sure that what we use is much, much less than what we collect, right? Because we can't use all that we collect. So it comes to our second challenge, which is investigating different sets of data. We have the mediation sessions to be investigated. We have the teletandem oral sessions to be investigated. We have the questionnaires to be investigated. We have the interviews, if we interview the partners, to be investigated. We have the reflective diaries or the learning journals, people have been calling it differently, to investigate. We have the chats to investigate. So it's really difficult to say what we are investigating. And I just brought some examples, like Salomão and Silva in 2020 investigated 14 university students, and I would like you to pay attention to the numbers that is possible to investigate when we are collecting data and doing all this together. And they focused on mediation sessions, right? Carvalho and Ramos in 2020 right? Investigated questionnaires of 12 pairs Portuguese-Spanish, all from the same time, right? The same group. Aranha and Cavallari to 2019, learning diaries of 12 Brazilian students, because usually the other partner barely writes diaries. Teles, Akira, and Funo, they investigated the oral session of one pair of students, of one pair means two students, right? Because it's pretty difficult, as mentioned before, which comes to our third challenge. What is quantitative and what is qualitative analysis in teletandem due to the amount of data we have, due to the time consuming activity that is collecting data, let alone transcribing and organizing and anonymizing, etc. For this, we have one pair of oral session by Leone, 2012, and 15 teletandem sessions of 4 partnerships of Capellini. This was the largest number I found of individual initiatives of transcriptions of 15 teletandem sessions. We have Gontijo and Salomon 2019, who analyzed 70 partners. This was the largest ever that I could find, but they analyzed online questionnaires. So the set of data of 70 people or 70 participants are online. The data, the set of data is the online questionnaire, but they could do it quantitatively and qualitatively, right? Still, in terms of research, we have a scarcity of studies in teletandem, such as this type, right? Because this, when you Google it, you go to the Google Scholar and you put telecollaboration plus longitudinal. These are the works, the papers that appear, because they try to analyze longer, in terms of time, longer periods and more people, more not only partners, but participants, right? So we have Akayama 2017, Akayama and Sato 2016, and we have Ishihara and Takamiya 2019. And some people can say, well, of course, they are very interested in numbers because they are Japanese. Maybe, but all of you know that we have been asked to present results in quantitative terms as well, right? So these are just some studies or some numbers that we don't have in teletandem except for those two, as far as my knowledge goes, right? But as the ones I mentioned before. And we also don't have in teletandem international joint projects which work with the same data, like the evaluating. The Evaluate project is just one project. It's an European project, and it's financed by Erasmus+. Because they have a staff doing or collecting data, they can analyze data qualitatively and quantitatively. And it's all in their website. But they could show actually they could show results to convince people who matters. I mean, people who pay for these projects, namely the governments involved, right? And see that the results of the study, which lasted 2 years and involved many, many people and many questionnaires and I mean, a broad set of commitments and partnerships, right? To study telecollaborative teacher education, right? So we still don't have it in Teletandem. We had João's project in the beginning, but now we don't. And maybe this does not lead, but it's a sign of our challenge 4, which is the data management planning, right? All these works I showed are based on different sets of data collected differently from different people and organized differently, anonymized differently. I mean, you have to be, in each of them, you have to be describing how you collected the data, when you collected the data, the context you collected the data, right? And this data is not used except for some works. This data is not used in other studies. It's used in one study and that's it, right? It's not, you don't replicate the data from other perspectives, right? So this is something that we should pay attention to, in my opinion. So how can we use the same data set, right? And investigate that same data from a different perspective, right? This is from my paper with Kyra, with Wigham. It's Aranha and Wigham, and she's responsible for this beautiful slide. And it talks a little bit about the digital data lifestyle. So how we should think of organizing data, right? What we should have in mind before data may become a product of the research and a significant part of each step. And I know that it's very time consuming if we do it with every group we have, right? And how this true cycle, so you have the management planning, so we have to think of how we are going to collect this data, right? I was thinking today about, in one of the presentations I attended, that sometimes the practice serves research, right? We say, well, I want a research, I want to conduct a research like this, so I just project the collection of that data for my research purposes. And I wonder how biased that might be in some cases, right? So, and then you have the data collection, and then you have the data analysis, and then you publish this data, right? And because this data is there, any of the researchers in the world could go there and check if the data, if he finds similar results, or if he could add something to that data. We have to think about data preservation and data reuse. How do we reuse data, right? So in this sense, we have some work going on already published, and these works are possible because of the corpus I'm going to show you. So we can have that being recycled, right? So we have Chanier and Lopes 2016. They have 4 sessions from 4 different partnerships in 4 different pedagogical contexts. So how influential is this? Studying different pedagogical contexts, different partners, not the same partner, or not 4 sessions from 4 partnerships in 1 pedagogical context, right? How this changes our results, or it does not change, I don't know, but we have to investigate. Cavallari and Feschi, 3 partners from 3 different learning scenarios. Rampazzi Aranha, 10 partners from different years and from different learning scenarios, right? So how could we do that individually? One partner in 1 year, another partner in another year. So how could researchers manage to organize this data? And Cavallari and Lewis, 79 questionnaires from different learning scenarios from participants ranging from 2012 and 2015, right? Which comes to our challenge number 4 in terms of research, which are longitudinal study. And we were acquainted maybe with the idea of longitudinal studies. It does not have to be over years. It can, as the 79 questionnaires, but it can be longitudinal like a year, or it can be longitudinal the same partner in different years, or, you know, longitudinal in this sense, right? You have to consider this number of variables, right? And the possibilities of investigations, like longitudinally. Let's say, what were university students discussing in 2012? I don't know. There was an election time. So what were they discussing? What were they discussing in 2015? Right? How do different learning scenarios impact performance? Is it different? Do they behave differently if I have a partnership in Assis and a partnership in São José do Rio Preto and a partnership in Araraquara, if we are all talking about teletandem, or a partnership in Unisalento, for example, right? How does the same partner behave in different partnerships? How is it possible to track the development of competencies of one single participant over a longer period of time, right? What influences learning? Time, learning scenario, partnership, linguistic competence, right? Being novice, being expert in the practice. So nobody crosses the river, the same river twice. Every time we analyze, we see different things because we are different. The response is different. What we analyze is different. Our experience is different. So the same data could give you, give this opportunity, right? To cross different rivers many times. Which leads us to challenge number 6, which is data triangulation. And thanks, Douglas, for this term. I was not sure because it sounded too Portuguese-like, data triangulation, but that's how it is. So what a corpus can do for you, right? This is just an example, and thank you, Lucas, for the example. If you put all the diaries in one corpus tool, right? And you search for the term politics, because I wanted to know what they were talking about politics, right? If they talk about politics. So if you put all the learning diaries in a corpus linguistic, in a tool, a corpus tool, you will find 21 occurrences of the term politics in Portuguese, none in English, none in the diaries written in English, right? And one example from the corpus is this, and this is how the corpus is organized. I'm not going to go further on this. Kayla has made a presentation. It's going to be available to everyone if you want to understand this anonymization procedure, right? And this is one of the occurrences. I'm just trying to show you how to track data triangulation. During our, this is free translation, right? During our third interaction, we talked a bit about politics, which was the theme of the writing I wrote, right? We talked about the differences between Brazilian politics and American politics, and also how the elections in each country occurs. That's what they talked about, and I wanted to see what he wrote about politics. So I just go to this in the corpus. I just go to this person, to this partner that is referred in the corpus, and I have the presidential election in Brazil and how he wrote about the presidential election. Of course, I don't want you to read all of this. I just brought this because at the end he gives an update and says Dilma won, right? With an exclamation mark. So in 2014, they were discussing Dilma's second election, right? And you can also go to the oral session to see in which context this conversation occurred, how they behaved in terms of multimodality, what faces and gestures and everything they used, what kind of information they put in the chat to discuss these differences, and you could also refer to the transcription of the session, right? Another possibility of data triangulation, this is from another person, as you can see here, right? And sorry, because some people have already seen this example, it really called my attention. Because this is part of the student's reflective diary, right? And he's talking about, sorry, it's not the reflective diary, I'm sorry. It's about the writing. He wrote about the writing task. He wrote about his favorite TV show, right? His favorite series. And his favorite series is Friends. And he says, what I love more about it is that each of the characters are so well developed. For instance, Monica Ross' sister is characterized by her cleaning addiction and by being so organized and competitive. I think one of the best scenes with her is that one when she literally feels pain because of Rachel. Her friend broke by accident her wedding silver plates. And that's what appears in the text production. And then in the third diary, after he produces this and they discuss the production in the oral session. In the third diary, he says, today, first, I just had some questions about the corrections in my writing. I made a mistake, a vocabulary mistake, wedding silver plates, which she corrected me and taught me that it was common to say wedding plates or china plates, right? That welded silver plates were not used, right? And then my most the biggest mistake was the use of the verbs, blah blah blah. And then you could triangulate this data with the oral session. Can all listen?
Só desculpa, mas o som não está saindo da interação.
No, really?
Really?
For me, it's perfect.
I think if you stop sharing screen and then if you share again with the
well,
clicking on the
believe
sound
me,
system.
I can
need to select share computer sound. It's you go on the bar where it says that you are sharing the screen, and on the right you will see 3 dots, and you select from there. There is a window menu, and there you select share computer sound.
Okay. See if it goes now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah?
So did you correct my...
Yeah, I emailed it really late last night.
No, it's okay. I got it and I check a little things with them. So
Here, I'll pull it up too.
You said that my main problem was the verbs in the past. So I think it is indeed my problem, because even in Portuguese I commit these mistakes.
Yeah, I do it too in English, so
It's hard to do this. What else? Wedding silver plates. I didn't know how to say the wedding plates. You know, because have you seen the show, The Friends?
I never really watched it, but I know the show.
Okay, can you hear me? You can't hear me now. You can?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
But you stopped sharing your presentation.
Yeah, I saw this. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Okay, we are back. We are back? Yes?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Good.
Good. And we can also go to the episode. I'm not going to show you, but I can, Maisa can just share this presentation, and you can watch the episode where silver plates are mentioned, right? And this term is never used in the show. So we can triangulate all these all this data if you have this data in a corpus. So we have this corpus, which is MulTeC, as probably some of you know. It's a research corpus, open to everybody. It has 145 gigabytes of data. We have 581 hours, 90 minutes of video data for teletandem oral sessions, Portuguese, English, only Portuguese, English. This is one thing we have to fix. And from this, like just 10%, no, much less than 10% is transcribed. We are still working on transcribing the data. We have the learning diaries, as Paula mentioned in her presentation, not this morning, but yesterday. We have chat conversations, we have texts written by Brazilian students and corrected by American students. And we have 91 initial questionnaires, 41 final questionnaires, okay? The MulTeC is basically organized like this, and I'm just going to show you a little bit because it's very small. I don't know if you can follow, but you have the years and the partners, and each partner has the set of data, right? So you have the year in this, in this corpus, you have the year with all the, every year with different groups, and the specificities of the learning scenario of each group, right? You have documents that show you the specificities of the learning, of each learning scenario. And the sum of metadata, including age, gender, level of proficiency that they themselves say they are in the first questionnaire. You have expectations. So all of this is compiled, anonymized, and organized in this corpus named MulTeC, right? So some considerations, and this also comes from my presentation with Dr. Wigham 2 years ago. The considerations about data is what data we are collecting during the telecollaboration project, or are we just so into practice that after everything is over we say, well, let's see which data I could use to write a paper, right? This is something that happens a lot, and maybe we should think ahead and use some other devices. So which policies will apply to telecollaboration? Is the data we are using in our in all the works, are they following the ethical procedures, right? Do we all have the consent terms? Because we are always asking students to sign consent terms so we can use their data, and it's a very long process. Who's responsible for this? I mean, if I want to use someone's data, who should I ask for, right? And who's responsible for managing this data if they are not in the same place? And if we are a research group, or as Paula says, a teletandem web, right? How do we make this web stronger? By sharing data, by managing data, right? If we are using data from the other partners, are the consent terms similar? because this MulTeC was made with interactions or with partnerships with the University of Georgia. And their consent terms is completely different from ours. So they have to sign their consent terms, we have to sign ours, right? And if I want to use this as a research, they have to, their consent terms should include what my consent term includes, right? Otherwise, I can't use their data. So these ethical issues are really important as well. Will the data be held in one safe location or multiple locations? Who's responsible for that? Who's responsible if I decide to use someone's data, right? How will we share data? Or are we? Or we are just keeping our data for ourselves? And will others be able to understand our data? So if you are interested in MulTeC, and I will gladly share with you, you are going to see that MulTeC holds many tables, right? Many documents that explain how data was treated. Yeah. So this is something that we should consider, or this data is just understandable by the ones who used it, right? Standardized formatting procedures. And could we do this with all the data we have? Could we standardize the procedures and so we have similar data collected similarly, right? Do we have many versions of the same data or just that data? Yeah. Again, standards. This is what people, international researchers have been asking us to do. Which standards? How did you collect? Which methodology you used, right? Is this methodology used by the whole group, by everybody who's working with teletandem? In research terms, because in practical terms, we have many, many different contexts, right? So these are some questions Dr. Wigham used, right, in our presentation. She is the expert in data management, not me. But I share the same concerns. Yeah. Okay. So these further remarks are from our paper. So if you are interested in MulTeC, I strongly advise you to read our paper, and also how MulTeC originated, which is Aranha and Lopes 2019, right? As I showed before. So we are, as I told you, we are very updated because we have very few virtual exchange projects foresee this, this issue, right, of data management as an issue, right? And this should be very, very beneficial to our field of virtual exchange and telecollaboration. So again, we are ahead of other projects, right? As João Teles was in 2006. Perceiving data as a research product. So we could be using all of these different learning scenarios, all of these different practices, all of these different data that we generate as a product for other investigators who are not as lucky as we are to have the context we have, the partners we have, right? And the group, we have the supporting web, the supporting net we have, right? We have some work in progress using MulTeC, and we have work using MulTeC by the researchers, right? And Leone, Aranha, and Cavallari, not exactly in this order because we have 3 projects going on. Sometimes it's Aranha, Leone, and Cavallari, sometimes Cavallari, Leone, and Aranha, and so forth. But Leone is a researcher who has been working with us on regular basis. Rodrigo Lima Lopes from Unicamp, who is an expert in corpus linguistics, and he's been jumping in the project to work with the set of data. Dr. Wigham from Clermont-Ferrand, who's here and who helped us a lot in organizing this corpus and raising problems and finding solutions and devising protocols for further collections. We have Tim Lewis and Suzy Cavallari working with the corpus. And we have Luvisari Muradi and myself, and she's from FATEC, also working with this corpus. And we have students, PhD students, working with the corpus. And I always want more PhD students. And master students also working with the corpus. And they are working with different data sets, right? Not the same data set that are diverse. There is a diversity of data sets used in these works. And I think as important final words, I think that considering multimodal studies with diverse data sets is a must in telecollaborative research, right? We should include other aspects of the same context. MulTeC is open to new languages. We started with Doti, Aranha and Leone, 2016 and 17. We started with Doti. Paulo has also collected interactions in Italian English and Italian French, maybe. But this data must go through all this process of anonymization, of organization, of description, right? But it's open to new languages. We need other languages to be included. Long-term research projects are likely to need shared data and shared corpora. So we have, Michael said yesterday that we have to be strategic, and maybe this is a strategy, right? For joint projects and for being visible in the area, in the field. Long-term research projects are likely to have protocols for collecting data and questions to be asked before starting collecting data. And this is very, very keen to agencies who sponsor research. Future masters and PhD students might benefit from MulTeC, so we really would love to have more people involved in researching and in researching this data with us, right? And also something that we have been mentioning in different, I haven't tackled this in this presentation, but we have been really concerned in the group with this, is that institutional effort must be made to recognize the potential of teletandem as a research and pedagogical environment. and international sponsored research projects may help it. So if we are sponsored and if we devise long-term projects with data from our fruitful contexts, right? I think that this is a way of making us visible, right? For our institutions, because sometimes we are lonely riders, we are doing the work by ourselves, and for our own institution and for the telecollaborative or telecollaboration field. That's it. Thank you very much. These are some of the references I used. And I would gladly answer any of the questions you might have. Thank you. Is someone taking care of the chat and can please start asking?
Yes, you do. I was told.
You were told to do
by
that?
several. I was told by several of my colleagues that they would be ready to take over the questions at the end because I'm finalizing the final remarks. Not to be alliterative about it.
Okay.
So sorry for putting you guys on the spot. We have a question already from Guilherme Mariano. Thank you for your wonderful talk. It was wonderful. I'd like to reiterate that.
Thank you.
Notice how I'm looking at you in the corner here, and you're.
Yeah.
I'd like to reiterate that. How is MulTeC data being stored? Is it already in a similar site, such as Educap's or UNESP's repository?
Not yet, Guilherme. Not yet. There are so many institutional and ethical issues before it's online that I just stepped back. It's open. If you want to use it and you sign our confidentiality term, you may use it. Other researchers are using it, right? But to put it online, we still have to some steps ahead. So it's not online. It's like here, right? And I can share with people interested as far as they sign the term, but no, and I don't know when it will be, right? Because this research is sponsored by FAPESP, and also FAPESP has many procedures to be followed.
I would like to ask a question, Solange.
Yeah.
Because for me, as a researcher, teacher, now promoting teletandem, the management of the data is one of the biggest challenges.
Yes.
Because we are always multitasking. So collecting data and organizing and analyzing is very challenging. In terms of the MulTeC, I would like to ask what type of expertise was it necessary to organize and the tools used?
Michelle, expertise, much more than we have. We should have much more expertise. We should have Dr. Chanier Wigham working with us and teaching us the basic steps, right? We had a course with her. She came 2 years ago. And Kayla, who is the PhD student who organized all of this and who anonymized all of this, learned by doing and by talking to. So it requires a lot of expertise, but none of us had this expertise in the beginning, right? And the first data bank that we organized, Luvisari Murad and I and Moreno, I mean, we had on the board at the Teletandem Lab, on the board, we had the first organization of MulTeC. Like, let's do like this. Let's start recording and let's start putting it in folders. So if we start now, if you start now, we already have protocols for collection. If you want to start collecting now, I can share the protocols with you. We can share the anonymization procedures with you. We can share the learning scenarios with you. I mean, it's done. But in the beginning, we didn't know any of this. We learned through the process. So, but nowadays, I think I wouldn't like to use easier because it's never easy. But it's a little bit more comfortable to do because we have the protocols, we have the procedures, and we have the experience. Like, don't do this because it won't be effective, right? So maybe this is the expertise that we have now and we can share. But I strongly suggest that you, if you want to start doing it, not as we usually do, because I used to start the practice and after that, say, oh, how interesting, the data is very interesting, let's do something with that, but without, planning, right? So if we want to start planning, I think now it's the time because we have some expertise and we have international partners who are more than willing to help. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, you did. And my question was also based on the experience of Teletandem in Assis, at UNESP Assis, because there we have a big number of interactions, but until last year, please correct if I'm not mistaken, we didn't have students in graduate programs to work in the same number that there is in Rio Preto. I think that now we have more because of the new program coordinated by Karin and Kelly. Am I correct? Yes, and so Rosana also supervising graduate students at UNESP in Prudente. So I think now we are restarting these focus on data organization. But when I started with João in 2006, it was a long journey until we had some students from Rio Preto going to Assis to collect data there and organize data that was produced there, because we produced a lot, but it was very hard to organize.
That's what I said about practice and what we say, what we do, and what we tell. I mean, it's very difficult to organize all the data. It's very difficult. I can suggest now that if you are interested, you can use this data because organizing data is very time consuming. But we as a group should think of organizing a wider and a broader MulTeC from different universities, right? Okay. But this data is there to be used. Should we use, sorry.
Oh, thank you, Solange. Sure. So I think we have a question from Ana Salomão Thanks for the excellent talk, Solange. Should we use their protocols for data collection for all research in teletandem from now on? Oh, sorry, yes. This is the question.
I don't know, Anna. I think that if we want to be a group, a strong group, a respected group abroad, right? We should. I really think that we should, because in some time you won't have to describe every data collection, but you could just refer to the MulTeC protocols. And so you will, your students, our students will have more time to focus on their research, on the data, on how to analyze the data, and not how to collect, and because there is already a protocol, and you follow the protocol if you want. I think that if we want to be internationally recognized, we should. And this is, of course, this is not my decision. This is a group decision. But yeah. Or at least we should discuss the protocols together. That's what Susie's saying, right? And have some core common procedures, exactly. Because these protocols came from our experience with MulTeC. Maybe it does not, it's not part of your context. Maybe your context is different, I don't know. Right, but I really think we should. And Guilherme, I think you said that you would like the protocols as well. Yeah, the problem of having interesting data is that it's raw data, right? I was faced with this tragic, maybe, context when Paulo Leone took me to a conference in France, and it was a computer mediation communication conference, CMC Corpora conference. And I had the previous MulTeC, which was a data bank, all the data collected in one place. And I thought, with my expertise that was none, I thought that was wonderful. And the person in charge of the conference, a very respected researcher in Corpus, when I presented, he looked at me and said, "Lady, what you have is raw data," which means basically nothing. This is what we have, raw data. If we want to talk about data as as we understand data now. So if we want to talk about data, and if we want to approach this issue, we can't have raw data. Raw data is the data that is not anonymized, that is not transcribed, that is not organized, that does not have documents, many documents explaining how it's organized, if it can't be reused, if it's not reusable. So if we don't follow all this, right, what you have is raw data, ma'am. I'm sorry. It was very problematic for my ego, this, but I learned a lot after that. I think that with Paula, we started organizing and reading and being interested in how to, how to see it differently.
Okay. Any more questions? Does anybody want to comment? Maybe someone from a different context abroad about the challenges of collecting and organizing data?
Solange, if I don't know if nobody else is going to ask you, like from other contexts, like Michelle proposed, I think it's good. But if nobody else has a question, I'd like you to talk a bit more about this tension between theory and practice. Like, I understand you suggested that we are good practitioners. We are better practitioners than like, is that what you mean?
Yeah. Maybe we are good theoreticians, but we don't write enough and we don't show people. So I don't know if we are. Maybe we are, right? But it's not shared with others. And what we do here in Teletandem, what all of us, when you report that in abroad, people are like, oh, really? 200 students a semester? Really? 4 groups? Really? So we do a lot. We do a lot. But because we do a lot, maybe because we do a lot, we don't have time to advertise what we do. Because it depends on a lot of reading and a lot of analysis to publish a paper. Everybody knows that. And especially who's in the university context, because some of us are not in the university context, right? So, but if we are, we publish or we perish. So I think that we know how to do it, how to form the groups, how to organize the groups, how to, right? If besides this, every time you organize a group, you collect data, we are, you know, we are beating around the bush. We have to use our expertise in doing, right? To tell people what we are doing, and if we need the data, data is there. Because otherwise, every time practice is serving research and vice versa. So we are always starting again. We are always describing procedures of collection. We are always describing procedures of anonymization, of transcription, of, right? And it's very time consuming. So we don't publish as much as we could, right? Because we are transcribing data, which is, right, a dull job. I don't know, but this is personal. That's what I think.
But personal is okay, right?
I think so, hopefully.
But one of the many conversations I had was, and again, going back to the strategic, is to have someone in charge of transcription and transcription training. And we train people to do transcription. And that's just part of what you do when you start out with the project, is you learn how to analyze by doing the transcription. And what you do is you get trained to do the transcription, and everybody benefits from it, because people will have the transcriptions in a repository and they'll analyze it from different points of view, right? It's not like it's repetitive work, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, and I hate to put my name out there, but, you know, I've worked with transcription from old Spanish and old Portuguese texts all the way to social linguistics. So it's not something that, you know, if you put 2 or 3 people together with me, we'll come up with an idea on how to make this systematic for students and train them, not just students, but also senior people, you know, where they can train their eye, because what we're dealing with is at least 2 languages, right? And I've seen transcriptions where the person just didn't understand what was going on, you know, and so you need the senior researchers and participants to help out in the cleaning of the transcription so that we have reliable data, right? But I think transcription is something that we strategically should implement that would make all the studies easier to move forward, right?
And this reliability that you mentioned, Michael, is very, very important. I would mention that in my presentation, but this is something that we also have to take into account, the reliability of our data and of our transcriptions. I said dull because usually you transcribe what interests you, right? So you were, yeah, we thank all the PhD and master students for their transcriptions. They also transcribe, but they transcribe that set of data that interests them. And we have one bolsista doing this, just transcribing data. And for her, it's a dull job because it's, I mean, she's not into research. She's an undergrad student just transcribing data.
Well, and that's the other thing is if they don't see the connection between the data and the research.
Yeah.
If they don't feel it, I mean, the only way they're going to really love it is by engaging in it, you know?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, Kyra has said that the Journal of Virtual Exchange also publishes practice reports as well as research articles. Perhaps one way into better publicity would be to submit case studies of the different telecollaboration projects from a pedagogical perspective. And this could also be something the group could think of, like describe the different learning pedagogical perspectives of the same project, which is Teletandem. What are the different, it could be a joint project, like not a joint paper, but a joint project. Each of us submit report cases, case reports. We report different cases. That's what I meant.
Yeah. And just to get briefly back to the transcription, the idea that we want to pass on to everyone that gets into this is that the transcribing has to be done for the greater good. Not necessarily everybody understands that the greater good is where we want to go with this, right?
But see, in MulTeC, we have more than almost 600 hours of oral, right, of partnerships.
I can't speak of the hours, but I know that I have enough to say that we've been recording since 2010.
Wow.
So we've been recording for 10 years. And it's every semester, it's Portuguese. This semester, we're also doing Spanish. But there's a lot there. And so between the two of us, you know, the two institutions, I mean, or the two groups, there's plenty to analyze, plenty to transcribe, right?
Yeah. Well, more things to think.
I'm sure everybody will sleep well tonight. It's good that I see you guys laughing because I can't hear you, so I don't know if I'm funny. My kids tell me I'm not funny anymore. I'm dad funny. I'm not funny anymore. You know? So if no one has any other questions, anybody? I can proceed to closing this out. Originally, okay, we're already a minute past the closing time.
Yeah.
My remarks should have ended a minute ago.
I would say, I mean, I talk
So I just wanted everyone that's here to know that, first of all, that we appreciate you guys staying on a Friday. I'm sure many of you will leave here straight to the happy hour just to relax a little bit from all this. It's been very intense. And originally we had planned, since it was 15 minutes, that I would talk a little bit about each session. But I don't think that's a good idea. So what we're going to do is, and sorry, Maisa, because I know you worked hard on putting all this information together. Michele covered our session, Solange. She did a little synopsis of our session. So instead of talking about the sessions, I'm just going to thank everybody, you know, that not just everybody that participated, but also everybody that helped put this together, right? So let me just put something. No. Just give me one sec. There we go. Okay, so I don't forget. Here we go. So I'd like to start out just by thanking our 3 keynote speakers. They were all excellent in their own in their own way and what they covered. I think one of the things we benefited from listening to all 3 of them is that they all came from different angles on this, and this was really exciting, and we're very humbled actually to be able to hear all these points of view. And thank you for everybody that showed up for these keynotes and that participated in the discussion, right? I'd like to also thank all of our moderators. We had 10 sessions, just a few numbers, okay? We had 10 sessions, we had 38 papers, we had 3 keynotes, we had people from 10 different countries, right, participating. It was beautiful to see. We'd also like to thank our institutional partners, right? So UNESP and Georgetown University, as well as research groups that participated, Invite and the Georgetown Teletandem Initiative. If anybody at any point feels I'm missing somebody, please remind me, because, you know, as you get old, the first thing that goes is memory, and the second one I forget. So that's just how it goes. Special thanks to Michele Gomes de Souza and Leah Adelson. I hope she didn't hear that. Leah Adelson. They worked like crazy people on the creation of the website, on all sorts of technical aspects. Michele helped with the design of the website. Leah did the implementation of the website. They were both ready to upload things at last minute notice, and they were real gung-ho about their approach. So special thanks to them. Also, special thanks to our student support, Edson, Ariadne, and Vito. They also participated in a myriad of ways. Some of them I'm sure that they did not enjoy as much as others, but they were there for us. They gave us what we needed. So thank you very much. And finally, we're very grateful to our advisory committee. It's a list, too long of a list. They all helped us select these excellent papers we witnessed in the past 2 days. You can see our advisory board on the website, and like I said, it's not a small list, but it's a very diverse list and full of very committed and competent people. So we were very happy that they accepted our invitation to this. And above all, the organizing committee put their heart and soul into this. It was truly a unique experience. The unity and the companionship made the work easier and the results so much smoother. Everybody talked to each other without worrying if this was indelicate or that was indelicate. It was just, what's the next thing we got to do? What's the next thing we got to do? And we just pushed everything along. So again, I'm putting Michele at the top of the group because she kept on saying, I'm not working yet, just give me more stuff to do, you know? And so she ended up doing a ton of work. And we really, this is our heartfelt thanks, Michele, for that. Of course, Rosana Aparecida was a guide, a light and all, jointly with Maísa, who helped us direct the workflow for several things. Sara Lucena participated as much as she could, all the way from Recife, while taking care of her nephew 24 hours a day. She gave us also some input. And Leah Adelson, I already mentioned, was a warrior in this, as well as Edson Jr., who was with us from the very beginning when we started organizing this. Just a final thought, this symposium, the idea of this symposium came about a long time ago, but we hadn't come up with a name or anything for it. And I woke up one morning, in the middle of the night, I woke up, and for some reason, Telong came into my head, you know. So I wrote it down and I talked to Leah, and Leah said, cursi, cafona, weird. But she said, but we can work on it, you know. And so it came out to GUTelOnX. So that was the origin story of the name. Also, we only sat down to put this all into perspective in July. When we saw that the fall semester was going to be fully online, we said, this is the group that has to do a symposium online. No other group has the right to do this. It's us. And we did it starting in July. We had 90 days to do it. And it worked out. And I would like to thank everyone for all the help, from evaluating abstracts to creating the videos, because I'm sure that for many of you, this was the first time experience, and it must have felt a little weird. But we're in a moment where we're going to feel a little weird, right? We feel a little weird every day, right? So this was excellent to see very creative videos too. We saw some very creative videos in the presentation. So those are my last words. If anybody else would like to add something, please feel free. And don't forget, intercomprehension, so we can use Portuguese here.
I would like to thank you all for the invitation again. And I compliment the organization. Really, I know that you were very organized, but you just made much more than I expected. So really, you rock, girls.
Thank you very much to all of you. Now it's Friday night here and it's pizza time, so I have to go. So, thank you for everything, and I know that we all work with technologies, but actually I would like to meet you in face-to-face,
yes,
because we are all friends. We also know that we like to discuss and talk, drinking wine together. So I hope, fingers crossed.
You had me at wine.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Fingers crossed. Ira, you too. We will all meet together very soon and drink wine together and talk about Teletandem as we like. Okay. Ciao, ciao.
Okay.
Thank
Nobody
you
wants to see
all.
what
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Wow.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Marro, Michael, Sara, Edson, Vitor.
Obrigada, gente. Parabéns.
Gente, obrigado.
Beijo.
Muito bom.
Parabéns, Sol, pela... Tava muito legal a palestra. Gostei.
Obrigada.
Depois quero trocar ideias.
Sim. Gente, trocar ideia é a melhor parte. Né? Vocês têm meu zap.
Sim.
Beijo, gente.
Beijo,
Até.
gente.
Thank you.